Welcome to the Becoming You show, where limits get torched and possibility takes the mic. I'm Leah Rowling, human in permanent beta, neurostrategist, mom to 3 amazing humans, married to 1 legendary soul, and your no fluff permission slip to stop waiting. Every week, we rewire brain patterns, smash hand-me-down mindsets, and dive into the daring, identity-shifting conversations most people dodge. Ready to turn potential into proof? Grab your pen. Your next chapter starts now. Hello, my beautiful friend. Welcome back to the Becoming You show. I'm your host, Leah Rowling, and we are going to start this conversation with a question, right? And here's the question. What if most of us already have a much better life than we think? I want you to sit with that and wander on around with that thought. What if most of us, aka you, what if you already have a much better, a more extraordinary life than you think? What if? But because of how we think, how we react, how we overmanage, overgive, overdo, we make it harder than it needs to be. And in that hardness, that good, that great, that extraordinary gets diluted. It gets dull. And the great then becomes average. And what was meant to feel alive starts feeling just okay. We convince ourselves that the path to a better life, typically, for most of us, high achievers, hello you, hi, means doing more, adding more goals, adding more growth, adding more effort. But what if the secret isn't in adding at all? What if it's in subtracting the unnecessary hard that keeps you from feeling the extraordinary that's already here? Because here's the truth, friends. You don't need anything to be different. You don't need to do anything different. You don't have to do more differently. You already have what you need. But because we humans are drowning in indulgent emotion, spinning in indecision, managing everyone else, and everything except the one thing, our own mind, right? You, me, we're exhausting the very energy required to experience the life that you already worked so hard to create. Thought management, emotional management, relationship management. This is the work. Not because it changes who you are, but because it allows you to experience who you already are. When your thoughts are clean, your emotions become clear. And when your emotions are clear, your relationships become conscious. And when your relationships become conscious, life becomes lighter. Not because the world gets easier, beautiful, but because you stopped making it harder than it had to be. And here's what happens when you start living that way. When you remove the extra hard from your plate, instead of piling more on, stress melts away. Not because life stops testing you, but because you know you can rise and grow through anything. Presence in this moment in time becomes paradise, right? Life feels like heaven on earth when you finally learn to be here in the now. Opinions lose their grip. They lose your grip. You stop performing for approval. And in that silence, in that beat, in that space, curiosity and connection begin to grow. Dislikes dissolve, gossip, judgment goes away. And when that happens, guess what gets to shine? Guess what gets to expand? Guess what gets to reveal itself? You, in your pure essence, love, joy. Joy becomes then something that you are by a byproduct of awareness and appreciation and choice. So today, that's what we're going to talk about, right? And I've spent a little bit of time like kind of laying the foundation, laying the groundwork for why this conversation is wickedly important. Okay? We're going to talk about not the life that you need to chase, that you need to effort more, that you need to struggle more. If working harder created the life that you wanted, we'd all have it by now. But rather, we're going to spend time talking about the life that's already here. It's here. It's just waiting to be felt. We're going to talk about the unnecessary hard, right? The mental clutter, the emotional noise that bury the extraordinary beneath the ordinary. I used to say when I did a lot of clutter coaching that the life, truly the life that we want, the life that we deserve, the life that's extraordinary is buried underneath all of the clutter, all of the stuff, right? Because maybe, just maybe, your best life, right, isn't something that you have to build, effort, work harder for, but it's maybe something that you have to unburden yourself from. Okay? Here's the quiet truth. So much of our suffering, and I say this with love, a huge heart, and a wink, so much of our suffering is optional. Not all of it, not all of it. Life will always be 50-50. Okay? Awesome, awful. Okay? But a shocking amount of what feels heavy is weight that we are choosing to carry. Why do we do this? Why do we do this? Because somewhere along the way, we learned a sneaky little rule that we've adopted as truth, and that's hard equals worthy. If it's hard, it must matter. If it's exhausting, it must be important. If I'm drowning, I must be doing it right. Right? If I just stay busy, then that will be productive. And that belief makes us manufacture difficulty. Yes, manufacture difficulty. It shows up in our calendars, it shows up in our conversations, and it shows up in our minds. So, what if you already have a great life, but it's buried under hard? It's buried under unnecessary suffering. What if the reason that you don't have a better life isn't because of what's missing, but because of what's already here is harder than it needs to be? So, here's how we make life harder. Three big culprits, and I've kind of alluded to them in the opener, okay? Unmanaged thinking, indulgent emotions, and unclean expectations. Now, in the body of work that I coach on, teach on, workshop on, write on, there's more, right? There's more. But what I find is when we clean up these three areas of clutter, thinking clutter, emotional clutter, and expectation clutter, our life becomes lighter, right? These three culprits, they travel with cousins, right? They're all a big family. And these cousins look like decision debt, unclear boundaries, and control. So I really want to break them down, and I might get to all of them today. And if not, then this might be one of two or even three podcasts, because this is so wickedly important, especially as we move into a new year, right? So let's talk about unmanaged thinking. Okay, it's the loud room that you live in every single day in your mind. Okay, your mind is the room that you live in all day. And for most people, that room is loud. It is cluttered, not because there's truth echoing in it, but because there's unchecked chatter. Okay, thoughts that are never examined, just accepted. As I've mentioned, thoughts, most of them are inherited, borrowed, recycled from other people, right? They're not of our own making. Okay? The more you believe every thought you think, the smaller your world becomes. Unmanaged thinking is where most of life's unnecessary hard lives. Because as we know and as we teach on this show, it's not the situation that drains you. It's not the situation that impacts you in any way whatsoever at all. Nothing you experience out of yourself. The only thing that you experience is within, by way of a sentence in the mind. That sentence creates a feeling, okay? That story you tell it is the drain. It is the drain that either makes you suffer needlessly, right? Or enrolled in a possibility, in a potential, okay? So we do this thinking clutter in a couple of ways. Overthinking, right, is one of the thought clutters that I wanted to bring forward, right? Just like any overage. When we have a closet cluttered, it's most likely because we have overclothed it, right? When we have drawer clutter, it's because there's more things in the drawer that needs to be in there. Overthinking is the same thing. This what if, or what next, or how many contingency plans can I have? How much struggle can I borrow and trouble can I borrow from things that haven't even happened yet, okay? Overthinking is the illusion of control wearing a mask of responsibility, thinking that it's preventative, thinking that it is mature, right? And in this way, you're not actually solving any problems. You're just spinning in it, right? What if this doesn't work? What if I fail? What if they don't like it, right? All of that thinking leaves you feeling productive, leaves you feeling as if you're making progress, right? It's mental hoarding. It's clutter disguised as preparation. What if you don't need to think more? You just need to decide faster. What if you don't need more thoughts, more thinking? You just need more time thinking about what you're thinking about. And if we kind of go back to decisions, that kind of goes back to that decision debt that I was talking about. Overwhelm in this overthinking world comes from not closing loops. Every unmade decision, right, leaves that loop open, leaves that door open. And every loop that's left open, every door that's left open, allows for doubt to kind of wander in. So what if we stopped asking, what if? Right? And instead reframe it for what's possible. What if we did that? Okay, so that's the first thing that our brain does, overthinking. The second thing is catastrophizing, right? That word, okay? Treating discomfort like danger, making things bigger than they need to be, okay? Right? This happens when our brain mistakes emotional discomfort for actual threat, okay? You're not in danger, most likely, beautiful friends. You're in growth, okay? But your primitive brain can't tell the difference, so it launches the alarm. It's never going to work. That's what I mean by catastrophizing. It's never going to work, or they're always like that, or what will everyone say, or there's no way I can handle that, right? There's always so much to do, okay? This kind of language trains your nervous system to overreact to everything, right? You start bracing for impact before anything ever happens. Catastrophic communication makes simple situations literally feel like life or death, okay? And if everything feels like an emergency, nothing can feel easeful. I don't even know if that's a word, but I make things up all the time, right? Nothing can feel easeful. I like that word, easeful. So next time your brain says, there's no way, like, what will everyone say? It's all like using those words, always, never. Okay. I want you to answer with, there is a way. There is a possibility. There is a solution. If there is a problem, I assure you, friends, there is a solution. You can't have a problem and a solution not at the same time. It's a universal law. If there is a problem in this moment in time, there is also an equal solution at the exact same time. I promise you this is true. But because we've all grown so accustomed to making, what do they call it? Ant hills out of molehill, whatever that saying is, right? We all are conditioned to make things be bigger than they are, right? So we're going to answer there's no way with there is. There, of course there is a way, right? And that one reframe reopens your problem solving brain. And when you reopen your problem solving brain, right, you shift out of primitive brain into your executive functioning brain. And clarity then invites peace. And you, my friend, deserve some peace right now in your life. I know it. Okay. So we've got overthinking, we've got catastrophizing, right? Then we have self doubt. Okay. Self doubt as an identity. Okay, that's just one of the thought clutters that I'm going to bring forward to you today. And self-doubt identity, okay, this is just who I am. Okay, this one's sneaky, okay, because it sounds very humble, right? But it's really kind of a defense mechanism. Okay, I've always been this way. I'm not good with money. I'm terrible at confrontation. I'm not a very good communicator. I'm not a good speaker. I have a terrible memory. All of these things, okay? People like to share those with me as just truths about who they are. That's not truth. That's not truth. That's just their thoughts. That's just cluttered thinking. Okay? You're not any of these things. You're just very practiced at them. You're fluent in self-doubt because you've rehearsed those sentences for years. People told you what you were able to do, you believed them, and you double down on that thought. And then you triple down on that thought. And you just made it believe, you just made that belief and you interpreted that about you as truth. And it isn't. It is not truth, right? Doubt isn't identity. It's a habit of thought. Okay. And like any habit, it can be rewired, right? When that old belief shows up that you just can't do this, you're not describing yourself. You're describing a thought. A thought is not a fact. It's a lens. It's a lens. Change the lens. Clean it up, right? Declutter the thought. Just like you would in a closet full of 50 sweatshirts. You don't need 50 sweatshirts that don't fit you. You need a couple that fit you well. Choose thoughts that fit you well. Do it on purpose for the better life. It makes that life more easeful. I'm going to use that word. I like it. More easeful. Just like going into a cleaner, clutter-free closet. It's more easeful to go in there and figure out what clothes you want to wear because there's not an item in there that you couldn't put on blindfolded. That's the kind of clean thinking that we want to create. Okay? So now we have indulgent emotions. Okay? So cluttered feelings. Okay? They feel very busy, these indulgent emotions. They feel very preventative. They feel very required, but they change nothing. They change nothing. Indulgent emotions are the sneakiest energy leaks of all, right? Because they feel productive. Like I said, they feel preventative. They feel like like we're being responsible. We're being mature. Okay. They feel like movement. They feel like you're doing something about the problem, but you're not. You're sitting in emotional quicksand, flailing, narrating, looping, hoping, and calling it processing. These emotions, they as I mentioned, they kind of wear the costume of productivity, okay? But they don't move you forward. They stall you. They signal you, but they don't solve for you, okay? So just like thoughts had three culprits, emotions have three culprits, okay? And these are the big three ones. These are the big three indulgent ones that I want to bring forward. Because just like the culprits of thinking, if we can clear out this emotional clutter, our lives show us a little more ease. They show us a little more delight. They show us a little bit more extra, right? So, overwhelm, frustration, and annoyance. There's more, but these are the big three, okay? When I take the gauge, take the pulse of my clients, generally they're sitting in one of these three. They're either overwhelmed, they're frustrated, and frustrated, has cousins and that are synonymous with frustration, disappointed, discouraged, right? And then we have annoyance, right? Annoyance. Okay. So let's talk about overwhelm. Overwhelm is a pile of unmade decisions. I talked about it earlier. Okay. Decision debt. Overwhelm isn't the size of your to-do list. Your to-do list doesn't create overwhelm for you. Your thoughts about your to-do list create overwhelm for you. And overwhelm at its core is just the number of unmade decisions that you're still sitting in. They're unclosed loops. They're unclosed doors, okay? It's a cluttered mind trying to manage a cluttered life. You tell yourself that you need more time, that you need more help, that you need more energy, but you don't. You need more clarity. Overwhelm thrives in vagueness. It dissolves in decision. It dissolves in clarity. Overwhelm will suggest to you that you don't know how to handle it, that there's just so much. There's not any of that. That's just all thoughts that create this feeling of overwhelm for you. It's indulgent. Do not live there, my beautiful friend. Okay? Overwhelm isn't a feeling you fix. It's a fog you clear through deciding, making a decision on something. So next time you want to say that I'm overwhelmed, okay, I want you to translate it into I'm not overwhelmed. I just have open loops and I'm going to close one right now, right? Frustration, okay? That's the second one. Most of the time, frustration is a teacher. Scratch that. Frustration's always a teacher. It's always a teacher. It shows up for you. We have to know this. It shows up for you when your reality, what is, refuses to match your expectations, right? When what is happening right now is different than how you expected it should go, how you thought that it should go. And if you've listened to any of my podcasts on expectation and getting out of the should life, okay? Go back and review, okay? These expectations create unnecessary pain and suffering for you, okay? Usually because those expectations were assumed and never communicated. So I want you to ask yourself, when you're feeling frustrated, have you set a boundary here, right? Or are you just waiting for them to read your mind, waiting for them to guess it? Don't assume that they will know. Assume that they won't, okay? If we have to do some assumptions here, just assume that they can't possibly know what you want them to do. Even if everyone would agree that that would be just the thing that people should do, don't assume that they should know, okay? And then I want you to ask yourself, if you're listening to this podcast, you're a leader, right? You're not just building a life, you're not just building a business, you're building leaders. So ask, have you taught the standard? Or are you just resenting them when they don't meet it? You don't fix frustration by venting. You fix it by clarifying. Clarity reduces conflict every single time. So maybe you reframe that you're not mad that they didn't meet the standard, right? I'm realizing that I never made the standard clear. That's not weakness, beautiful. That's ownership, okay? So we want to talk about annoyance, and I'm going to probably end this with annoyance, and I will do a part 2 next week. But annoyance is the third culprit for this emotional clutter, okay? If you feel annoyed, right? If you feel resentful, if you feel bitter, right? All that's happening is your nervous system is asking for clarity, right? And as you notice, clarity is the antidote for everything we've talked about so far, or it just needs a pause. Annoyance is your emotional check engine light, okay? It's your nervous system saying, something's off here. Hello. It means that you need clarity, you need a boundary, or you need a pause, okay? Don't judge this feeling, just decode it, okay? What is this emotion trying to tell me? Because when you stop fighting annoyance and you finally hear its message, it's really wickedly wise, right? So there is a pattern behind all this indulgent emotion, right? They orbit around avoidance. The overwhelm avoids decisions. Frustration avoids clarity. And annoyance, a lot of times, friends, avoids rest, right? They keep you looping in busy emotion instead of aligned action. So we're going to bring forward expectations, decision debt, boundaries, control in the next conversation that we get to have, because I really believe that this is so important. One, as we close down this year and as we embark on a new year, a better life for you isn't built by piling on more. If you were honest with yourself, you've probably been doing that. You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. You feel as if in order to have more, you have to do more, okay? But what if a better life is built by removing what makes it harder than it has to be? Because at the end of the day, we're all just solving for wanting the best, most extraordinary life possible. That is the problem that we're always solving for. But what if we've been solving for it all wrong? And what if the real solve was by removing what makes it harder than it needs to be? So I want you to audit your thinking. I want you to audit your emotional and energetic expressions. I want you to close the leaks. I want you to teach the standard. I want you to choose the next step, right? So your invitation is I want you to pick one thing today that you'll subtract: a thought, a loop, an obligation, an indulgent emotion. Check yourself on overwhelm. Check yourself on frustration. Check yourself on annoyance. Don't linger there. Check it. Check it. And just like you clean out a closet, clean out that crap. And then notice just how much lighter you feel when you stop glorifying hard. All right, beautiful friends. If this episode helped, right? If it helped you at least glean a different invitation on how to better your life and to really discover and reveal what is already extraordinary, please share it. Please share it with someone that might be just carrying too much this season, because I know a lot of us are. So thanks for being part of this conversation today. Thanks for choosing easeful as an invitation to step into. So have a beautiful one, and I will see you next time. Take care, everybody. If this episode cracked something open, good. Let it. And then head to leahrollingcoaching.com and grab the tools to rewire the story and reclaim your future. It is yours. And then share this with someone who's still waiting to be chosen, still waiting for permission, and remind them they don't need a breakthrough, that they are the breakthrough. Until next time, my beautiful friends, invest in you and keep becoming.